What down with the YouTube? It's Marty 2 Major, and I'm back with another reaction video. Today we gonna be reacting to real life brutal revenge kills. We gonna dive right into it. We gonna see what they talking about, and I want y'all to watch it with me. So let's go.
An ambitious and intelligent young socialist in Russia, as Trotsky was, would come into contact with the ideas and eventually the person of Lenin sooner or later.
They were both famous for instigating a democratic revolution, turning it into a dictatorship when they lost the first election, letting the Germans invade Russia, and then failing to invade Poland. When Lenin died, he named Trotsky as his successor, but Stalin had already snuck himself into power, banishing him.
Trotsky was the favored candidate because he was the best known. He was at Lenin's side at those key moments in the Civil War. Nobody was more important to the Soviet victory and support of Lenin than Trotsky.
He began to oppose Stalin's regime from abroad, which ground his gears so much that in 1940 he sent an assassin to murder Trotsky in his home in Mexico. The agent used an ice pick as a weapon, went for the head, and Trotsky died in hospital a day later.
Trotsky lives on as a martyr and a symbol of what might have been. This was the true son of the revolution, the true heir to Lenin, who was never given a chance.
Leo V. Byzantine emperors often had bizarre and unusual deaths.
As you approach the imperial throne of Byzantium, you'd have felt as naked as a man on Judgment Day, utterly defenseless.
Leo V the Armenian, emperor from 813 to 820, was famous for how he died. During his reign, he divorced the sister-in-law of his commander, Michael, causing him to begin a revenge plot, seeking to assassinate Leo. Whispers reached Leo, and he imprisoned Michael on Christmas Eve, then attended service in a chapel. Michael's co-conspirators disguised themselves as a choir, surprising Leo. Poor lighting meant that they mistook the priest for the emperor, allowing Leo to grab a heavy cross. The assassins got the better of him, dumping his remains in the snow, along with Michael's key, meaning he was crowned emperor with the handcuffs still on. Andronicus I come
In the snow? Then what made it disrespectful? Y'all dump his remains in the snow. Like, what was you thinking? Like, I feel bad for dude who got caught in that crossfire.
Andronicus ruled the Byzantine Empire for 2 years. He was one of the worst tyrants in Roman history, with his last action being an attempt to arrest the rebel Isaac Angelos. This failed, and Isaac took shelter in the Hagia Sophia, which was currently the center of public demonstration opposing Andronicus. They proclaimed Isaac emperor, and Andronicus attempted to flee but was captured and brought to Isaac, who handed him over to the people. They strung him up to a post and beat him for 3 days straight. He lost teeth, hair, and an eye in addition to having boiling water poured on him. They then hung him by his feet, where 2 soldiers had a competition to see whose sword could plunge deeper. Jeanne de Clisson, also known as the Lioness of Brittany. Jeanne was a French and Breton noblewoman whose husband was executed by the French King Philip VI in 1343.
It's worth noting that Jeanne and her husband were powerful landholders in the region who may have posed a potential threat to the king's stability.
This caused her to sell her land, raise an army, and begin to wreak havoc upon the French forces in Brittany. She attacked a castle and a garrison, then turned 3 merchant ships into war vessels.
It was said that her 3 ships were painted black and topped with red sails, which would have been a dramatic sight during the years that she menaced the seas.
She then turned to piracy and began decimating French commerce ships in the English Channel. She also attacked and burned coastal cities along Normandy.
Some accounts even maintain that Jeanne was especially ruthless when encountering nobles, to the point that she beheaded any member of the French upper class who encountered her.
Eventually, the French sunk her fleet, but she miraculously survived after floating for 5 days and continued piracy for another 13 years. Frank Eaton,
Hey, shorty thuggin', shorty against him. You hear me? She out in the water with it. You hear me?
a.k.a. Pistol Pete. Frank Eaton, more famously known as Pistol Pete, was a gunslinger from the 19th century, whose tale is perfect for a Western plot. At the age of 8, his father was shot to death by former Confederates for his abolitionist opinions.
My father was called to the door and shot down like a darn mad dog.
There were 6 men responsible who were part of a group called the Regulators. His father's friend told him, "My boy, may an old man's curse rest upon you if you do not try to avenge your father," teaching him how to use a gun. When he was 15, he outshot a fort full of military soldiers.
He became a master of the quick draw, outshooting all of the soldiers, earning himself the nickname Pistol Pete.
He became a deputy at 17 and got revenge on his father's killers one by one, finishing them off by 1887.
I learned how to use them guns. I can use them yet better than any man in the state, I think.
Pierre Picard. Pierre Picard was the real-life inspiration for the monumental work of literature, The Count of Monte Cristo. In 1807, he was engaged to a wealthy lady, but 3 of his friends got jealous and had him falsely imprisoned, claiming he was an English spy.
And if you're thinking just now, why me, oh God? The answer is, God has nothing to do with it.
During imprisonment, he befriended a wealthy Italian who told him the location of his treasure in Milan. Picard was released in 1814, acquired the treasure, and then returned to Paris under a false name.
How did I plan this moment? With pleasure.
The following 10 years were spent plotting revenge against his former friends. He finished them off one by one and was eventually arrested by the police after his success. Ilyahu Itzkovitz. Ilyahu Itzkovitz was a Jewish man from Romania whose family was killed in front of him inside a concentration camp in World War II. When this happened, he vowed to avenge his family, but was unable to find the murderer initially. He then joined the Israeli Defense Forces, where he learned his family's killer, a man named Stănescu, had joined the French Foreign Legion. He deserted the IDF, joined the Legion, and tracked down the killer in French Indochina. He joined the same battalion as Stănescu and eventually got his revenge during a patrol. Itzkovitz was court-martialed by the IDF for desertion, spent a year in prison, and then lived the rest of his life, dying in 2015. Olga of Kiev.
Looking at a picture of this saint, you could say her appearance captures a kind of timid tranquility, innocence, and beauty.
Olga of Kiev is arguably the most brutal saint to ever exist. Her husband was killed by a nearby tribe called the Drevlians. They then tried to get Olga to marry her husband's killer, which she accepted. This was a ruse, as she then had the first messenger buried alive, the second burned, and then invited them to have a large feast where they killed her husband. The Drevlians became intoxicated, and she had 5,000 of them murdered.
She wanted to rid the face of the earth of every last Drevlian man, woman, and child.
Then she laid siege upon the city where her husband died, attached sulfur and cloth to birds, set them aflame, and then burned the entire city.
Not one house was spared from the fires, and so each person fled from the city. One by one, they were caught and killed on the spot by Olga's army.
She killed and enslaved most survivors, forcing the remaining to pay her tribute. Aku Yadav.
Why did the women of Nagpur feel the need to kill?
Aku Yadav was many things, none of them nice. Coming from Nagpur in India, he ruled a crime syndicate which bribed the police to let him have free reign over the city. Amongst his many crimes were more than 40 cases of sexual assault. In 2004, he was arrested for his own protection, and the court was going to release him. Upon hearing this, hundreds of women stormed the courthouse, where Aku insulted a woman he had previously assaulted. This sparked outrage, causing 200 to 400 women to throw chili powder and stones in his face and then stab him at least 70 times.
It was an arranged, planned murder which had something very fishy, which is still unexplored.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Naganori was a Japanese daimyo who was forced to commit seppuku in 1701 for failing to kill a rival, Kira Yoshinaka, after he insulted Naganori.
They also commanded the seizure of Asano's castle, the disbandment of his house, and the arrest of his younger brother.
His loyal samurai, who in the absence of a master became Ronin, swore vengeance for his death. They spent 2 years plotting, eventually storming his castle and killing Kira. The Ronin then surrendered and were condemned for their murder.
justifying their violence by saying they couldn't live under the same heaven as their lord's enemy.
Due to popular support of the Ronins' loyal endeavor, they were forgiven execution and instead allowed to regain their honor through the act of seppuku. This story has been widely influential. Many pieces of media have adapted their heroic tale in the centuries since.
Their story soon morphed into legend. Within weeks, it was dramatized for the stage, and soon after, scholars began debating the Ronins' actions.
Were there any legendary tales of revenge you thought should be on this list? Let us know in the comments.
Today, Lord Oishi and his followers are still celebrated as symbols of ultimate loyalty and are honored as heroes in Japan.
Did you enjoy this video?
Man, all I know is girl who hopped on that boat, you heard me, threw her rockets at the other ship. Then they burned her ship down. She swam back to safety and made it out that bit alive. She thugging. But it's more than 2 major, and I'm checking out.